their defensive ecosystem. The more you don't share information, the harder you're making it for everyone. The threat actors are certainly sharing their information and sharing it quickly and efficiently. So if we aren't, we are only making their lives easier and our lives harder. So if you are thinking about a threat intelligence program or working on one within your organization, I would really urge you to think about the component of sharing. Now, sharing can be internal. You know, if you have a specific threat intel team, obviously they have to share with your incident responders, your SOC analysts, your CISO, and that sort of stuff. That's good and fine. But I would also argue that good threat intelligence is something that is then disseminated more widely as well. There's a lot of companies that will pitch you threat intelligence. Some of them do it well, some of them less well. All of them are expensive. And quite honestly, if you're starting with threat intelligence, I would ignore most all of it. Don't go out and buy it. Don't tell your CISO to go out and buy it. That comes later. Some of them do offer certain amounts of free level of access. Fine, take advantage of that. I've got no issues there, but I would certainly advise anyone who's trying to work or start a threat intelligence program not to immediately go out and buy threat intelligence feeds. The value proposition is very nebulous, and quite honestly, when you're starting off a threat intelligence program, you're not going to get very much value out of it. So that's what I have to say on that. Where I would urge you to start is with stuff that's open source. There are tons and tons. So going back to like, who is your consumer? There's plenty of people who their consumer is literally the world, and take advantage of it. It's out there, and it will be very valuable to you if you can leverage it. Question. Who here can name the largest open source threat intelligence database on the planet? Any guesses? No? No one's brave enough to guess? With the way Google search is going, I don't agree with that. Any other guesses? No? Twitter. There is so much free and open source intelligence on Twitter that quite honestly, if you don't have a Twitter account and you want to get into threat intelligence, you will be losing out if you don't go sign up. And when I do say Twitter, I'm specifically going to say use it on your desktop and use TweetDeck. No ads. You can do everything in columns. It's very powerful in terms of providing an experience that is usable as opposed to traditional Twitter. So with that in mind, it's tweetdeck.twitter.com. So like you can sign into Twitter and then change your URL to that and you'll get the nice spiffy view. But yeah, just a few examples here. So you can set feeds to find various users. So there's a ton of users out there who post their findings, whether it be for their own research or some of them work for larger organizations or certain groups. An amazing example of that is that first one there, Cryptolamus. That is a group of like 20 or 30 I'll just say information technology professionals, because not all of them are in information security, but some of them are just sysadmins or people like that. They daily go through and post every single Emotet IOC on the planet. Basically, they use their companies as sensors, and all of the malicious documents that come in and all of the infections that follow on from those documents, they post daily. It is impressive what they're doing because they all do it for free. So again, there's a lot of stuff you can leverage out there for free, so do it. Besides following specific users, you can also set up searches within TweetDeck. So some of the ones that will give you a good bang for your buck, Pastebin and IOC. So much malware gets posted to Pastebin, whether it be from researchers who just ran an analysis and then posted their results on Pastebin, to literally people deploying malware from Pastebin. So that can be a useful thing to actually look at the underlying code of a particular PowerShell script. There's a bot on Twitter called Scumbots that regularly trolls Pastebin, and the Re-Evil, or also known as aka Sodenobiki ransomware. There's tons of samples of that on Pastebin. So if you are curious to see what current ransomware looks like, you can easily find that on Twitter or Pastebin. Twitter's just you can follow certain things to kind of give you a ping when they actually show up. You can do that in Pastebin too, so I guess pick your poison. But Twitter's my place to go to begin with. Searches for specific threat actors or malware families. Use the hashtags to your advantage. Specific IOCs. If you just had an infection in your organization and you get some AV alert on some hash or some domain or some IP, throw it into Twitter, because if someone else has seen it, there's a good chance they posted about it too, and have some additional context to prevent you from having to do that work again. If you want a shinier interface, there's a helpful individual out there who's created basically all of what I was just recommending to do there in a shiny interface called TweetIOC. Basically, they've written a bunch of scripts and bots to go scrape Twitter every day, and then they throw it into charts and graphs in a searchable database. So if you don't want to directly sign up for Twitter but still get your IOCs, this would be a good option. And I am going to go a little bit more of some question and answer here, so let's get brave. All right, so I've got 3 domain names up here. If you were to receive this from your vendor or from some helpful buddy, I'm going to tell you this is not what I consider threat intelligence. Can someone take a guess at what sophosdefense.com does? Just any guess? Okay. All right. How about someone want to guess VolusionCDN.com? Any guesses for that?
Some sort of content delivery network.
Okay. How about blog. Not quite sure how to pronounce that. The blog. Anyone want to take any guesses what the blog is? So.
I want to backtrack. I want to guess Sophos Defense is not what we think it is, and it's actually some sort of it's a trick, right? I don't know. Okay, continue.
All of these are bad.
Yes.
None of these are good. If you were to see any of these on your network, you would need to take action as an incident responder or security professional. So what action are you going to take for Sophos Defense?
Well,
who knows?
If you assume it's actually Sophos, we're going to let it through, right?
Yeah. Well, in this case, I'm telling you it's bad.
Okay.
So do you know what action you need to take?
I mean, I can tell you what I would actually do if I saw that, was suspicious of it. I'd Google it.
All right.
I'd be like, oh, look, it's in a bad list of bad things.
Yeah, exactly. And here, that's what you got. It's in a bad list of bad things. These are all bad things. But can you take any real action on that? Not really. You can put it in your IDS and block it, right?
Sure.
It's about what you can do. Same thing with the others, right? No one really knows what any of these actually do, right? You've just been told they're bad. That's why this isn't threat intel. You have no context. You have no idea how to react to any of these. This is threat intel. Same stuff. We have our same 3 things here. Here, our blog. Well, that's actually it is a WordPress site, that's being used to deliver Emotet malware documents. So that's part of the delivery stage. No one's infected if they go to it, but they probably have a malware or a macro-laden document sitting on their system that hopefully they don't open, because then they'll be infected. Our Volusion CDN, well, that's a MageCart style attack. So that's the one that, if that's on your website, you have been sending credit cards to someone who is now selling them on, you know, the dark, deep web, whatever. So if you don't actually look at how many credit cards you've leaked, you're going to be in some trouble. And our last one, our Sophos defense, that's command and control infrastructure for someone's Cobalt Strike server. So that's probably bad. They probably at least have a layout of all of your Active Directory and potentially way more. So all three of these would have vastly different actions you would take. First one, it's delivery stage. It's fine. Go to the person's system, tell them not for documents, you know, clean them up, the system, maybe not. Our MageCart. You're going to be going through your website. You're going to see, okay, in this case, Volusion CDN, they're like a third-party provider of payment processing. So it's a supply chain attack. So you go now work with Volusion to tell them to get their act together, and then you have to figure out how many people, you know, made purchases on your website between this date and that date, which you don't even know yet because you have to figure out how long Volusion's been hacked. So obviously very different from your Emotet infection. Sophos defense. Here we've got, you know, more advanced actor command and control. Here's where you need to start thinking about, are they on more than one system in my environment? Do they have a blueprint of my environment? Is this a more advanced level financial or APT style actor? Like, that's not the, oh, just brush it off. That's bad. So the idea here is we have key things. We have date and times. So like our Volusion CDN, we had that from October 8th to October 12th in 2019. Our Emotet blog, that was only hosting that malware doc for a day. And same thing, our Cobalt Strike, we've only seen that active for 1 day. So you can narrow your window in when you need to look for something, and you need to take based on the type of malware involved or the type of activity involved. So yeah, that's why I say just Googling and getting a blacklist really doesn't help you, because you have no context. The key to threat intelligence is context. So when I said earlier, we're going to come back to kill chain and diamond model and kind of smush them together, this is the idea here. I might disappear from the stream for a minute because I might jump around to go point to some things. So across here, we have our kill chain: reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, and action on objectives. And I'm actually using our Sophos defense here. So this was actually from a sandbox run that we did in a fake Active Directory we've built. So in here, recon, we have no idea. We're going to use Acme Corp as our victim here. We have no idea what kind of recon this threat actor has done with us. Weaponization. It was an Emotet malware document, so we know they're using. All right, how did they get that there? Well, it came in by email. It was sent to Bob, and they used Gmail. Bob is Gmail, or the person who sent Bob email is Gmail. And then within that, there was a link to random WordPress site. Bob's still getting that. Next step, exploitation. Well, the macro executes. It's not really an exploit or a vulnerability. It's just taking advantage of a feature. But in this case, we've got the victim machine, 10.10.10.100. All right, phase 5. Here we have the installation. Machine here of 10.10.100 is infected. It installs Emotet followed by TrickBot. and C program data, GPU check, app data roaming, violent runner. Next phase, after that, they then make the call out to Sophos defense. Cobalt strike is acted on. And reports your Active Directory infrastructure to the adversary. Now, obviously, this could be a part of a larger attack still, but this is just an idea of how you take a single intrusion and map it all out. So here we're taking the kill chain along with that diamond model to put the thing, the two things together. I always forget water. Whew. Does that make sense? Is totally lost. Useful than how they viewed the Oh, please, yeah, if you can.
I've never actually seen like the diamond model really used, so yeah, it's actually really cool. Pretty interesting to see it.
Agreed. Yeah, that me too. So this was the SANS 578 class. And again, until I did this myself, used for the diamond model, it's really in a concept, but like, how do you use it? Yeah, and it's great for vendor blogs and all kinds of stuff like that. It's not useful for your day out stuff. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you do this find in your environment, but if you have an infection that goes farther than normal or is part of a larger breach, I would highly recommend doing this kind of analysis because it will help you understand the full chain and be able to tag together other potential events and incidents and tell the story to other analysts or your C-suite or whoever.
I'm looking at this and running through previous incidents that I've worked on past in my head. It's like one of those where doing this actually would have been really cool to then be able to present that as findings, or present that as like the story, the explanation of like here's what we found. So.
Exactly. Yep.
Could then share.
So yeah, this would be my recommendation on how you can actually take advantage of kill chain and diamond model. And sometimes you'll get certain vendors who like to modify the kill chain to their own internal speech, which is fine. I've always found weaponization, exploitation within the standard Lockheed Martin kill chain to be a little weird, just because sometimes it's kind of weird. Like, again, exploitation. We didn't exploit a vulnerability. We just used a Microsoft feature. So to me, that one's always kind of rang a little hollow, especially with most attacks nowadays usually taking advantage of features rather than vulnerabilities. But whatever. All right. So if you are going to be starting a threat intelligence program or you're on a threat intel team, the thing you will probably be asked, and you're going to have to do your best to temper expectations on, is who done it? Who done it? Tell me who done it. Because no matter whether you're doing it on contract or if you're a part of a large threat intel team, someone above you is going to say, I want to know who it was. And quite honestly, attribution is the hardest thing you can do in threat intelligence. It is the thing you should probably worry the least about, unless you are either a nation state or in one of like those top tier organizations who like to, write those fancy reports for nation states, like FireEye, CrowdStrike, those kinds of people. And just because Iran is port scanning you does not mean you're being attacked by an Iranian APT. Please, never say that, ever. What is required for true attribution? This is why it's hard. You essentially have to have some amount of these, ideally 2 or more of these, to actually prove attribution. So we just kind of went through the intrusion analysis. You've gone through, you've looked at how the actor works. They use Word documents with macros. They then, deploy Emotet and TrickBot, and later they use tools like Cobalt Strike. Like, okay, we've done an intrusion analysis. Is this unique enough to a particular actor, yes or no? Cool, maybe it is somewhat unique. They use this special defense, wasn't used except in the organization. It's nowhere else on the internet. Cool, that's only one indicator. We need more. How can you get more? Well, we did it. They came. Died again. All right. Intermission. Testing. One. You've done all the OSINT stuff. You've been proving that it's useful to your organization. and they're like, we want to go to the next level. Where do you go? Honestly, the places to go platform. Of some pulling in any feeds that can be pulled in, and then automatically sharing that with the SOAR, which then is magically sending it out to the tools as needed, and fairy dust spread everywhere. And then, to finish off the night here, I'm going to talk a little bit about my preferred threat intelligence platform, which is known as MISP. There's commercial vendors out there who sell threat intelligence platforms. There's a few different open source ones. MISP I've been now using for about 1.5 years, and I will tell you that I love it, and that it, in my eyes, is probably, again, if you're kind of building a threat intelligence organization, it's probably the best way to start. Maybe it's not where you finish. I have heard some people talk that once you hit a certain scale, it can suffer a bit, and there's certain commercial platforms that do a little better. But probably for most of you who are listening here, you're never going to hit that scale, so it's probably going to do just fine for you. MISP is built by the Cert team from Luxembourg over in the European Union. It's financed by the European Union, but 100% free and open source. You can go to GitHub and download it and run it tonight. They've got everything from deploy your own, run it in Docker, AWS images, and OVA pre-made instances as well. So very easy to get into, and again, free and open source. You don't have to pay anybody, you just need a server where you can put something. The API, it has an API that comes with it that is really powerful, and you can even just go and use their examples, and you might never need to even touch anything that isn't already a script that's already been built for you. It's awesome. The community, it's got a lot of community support, very active. It's got something around 8,000 participants who have started in GitHub. It's got like 2,500 open GitHub issues and like 5,000 closed ones. A lot of activity around it. It's being actively developed. Some other free and open source platforms out there, seems like development is kind of slacked off, so that's good. And again, you know, just the capabilities that you have with it are, I haven't found anything that I like better than it. What are the negatives to MISP? Well, a lot of organizations want somebody to choke when things go wrong. There is no paid support. You're running it yourself. If you run into an issue, you're Googling and you're looking through GitHub issues until you figure it out. So this is where most people don't like it, is that you essentially have to have someone who is good at Linux adminning and has some amount of understanding of applications. Is that a high bar? Not really. but some organizations don't have that skill, so they want something, you know, provided to them on a silver platter. This, you got to put some work into it. So in the States here, the US government wanted to have their own like sharing platform thingy. So they created this thing called Stix Taxi, and then their open source platform called Crits. They're not good. The adoption was awful. A lot of your threat intel vendors will allow you to export as Stix, but like, it's really hard to find people who actually are running taxi servers. They're very few and far between. Crits is way out of date, and I was looking on their GitHub the other night. Someone asked them, you guys updating from Python 2.7 to 3? And they're like, nah, we ain't got time for that. But that does have a little bit of the negative, is that since it is based out of Europe, a lot of the people who are doing training are doing that at conferences in Europe. So unless your organization is willing to fly you to Europe, you're going to have to do a lot of the learning, you know, on your own, you know, with YouTube videos and tutorials and that sort of stuff. Not much hands-on in-person training. There's a learning curve. Because it is so capable, there's a lot of things that even if you've worked in it for several months, there's features you have never used before. So I will definitely say, because I tried using it before in my current role, I tried using it like 2 times beforehand. There was just so much that it was capable of, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, that I stopped using it twice until I finally actually had a reason to dive into it deeper. So, a little bit of time for demos. Let's see, we got what, about 5-10 minutes left?
Yep. Don't worry about the mic. Just put the mic down. It's going up here now. There's something odd going on over there.
Okay, so this is dead. We're done. All right.
It's fun. Fun while it lasted.
Should I just turn it off?
Yeah.
All right. Alrighty here. So this is my MISP instance. Hooray! I got logged out. We won't look at that one then for right now, because I'm still logged in here. This is not my MISP instance. Yay! So you can run MISP on your own, which is cool. That goes back to you having to put in a little bit of some Linuxing and you know, some back-end knowledge. However, Circle does run what's called mispriv. Mispriv is a essentially invite MISP instance, where the invite is you email them and say, hey, I am the security admin at this organization and I would like to join this community, and they're like, cool. Give us your organization's name, a PGP key, and we'll add you. That's it. So you could start participating even without running your own MISP instance, which is kind of neat. They've got now just shy of 65,000 people who have created, or 65,000 events that have been created. There's about 1,400 organizations that participate right now. Let me take a moment to actually get into my example here, which is in my MISP instance. So one moment.
Can you tie, like if you're running your own instance, can you tie that data into that larger pool?
Yes.
Like
So MISP is a sharing platform. So not only is the idea that this is where you store your data, but it has the capability to both pull and push. And you can create different configurations to be able to do that. Now, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend pulling in all 65,000 events that are in that MISP instance, unless you're planning on devoting a server with fair chunky amount of resources to your local instance. So I run a local instance for myself. I run an instance for my job, and then I also have an account on Miss Priv. So I have different sharing setups between each of those. But yes, you could 100% have three servers that have identical information. The other thing that MISP allows you is what are called communities. So you can, anytime you create an event, you can restrict it to just your organization. You can restrict it to trusted organizations. So kind of like friends, you can share it with what's called connected communities. Think friends of friends, or you can share it with everyone. So every single thing you create down to the whole event, or even individual things within the event. So you could create an event where the event itself is shared with everyone. You have 15 IPs in there, and one of those IPs is a private internal IP. Well, that one private internal IP could have a different sharing restriction on it. So you could still share the event with all the bad guy IPs, but have your private IP be excluded from that sharing. All right, so let's go into my example here. All right, so this is an example event that I created for this particular talk. And in here, this is where I took that screenshot of our three things that we looked at earlier. So within a particular event, there's a bunch of different things you can take advantage of. So the easiest one is quite simply adding new attributes. So each thing within an event is called an attribute. So an attribute could be anything from a hash to an IP, to a file path, to email user, to, I think they've got close to like 60 or 70 different kinds of attributes. Probably the thing I love the most, let's see here, where, it's really hard to read this backwards. How much have I got there? Are good?
Yeah,
Still good?
still good.
All right. This is a little bit easier, not to have to read backwards. This is my favorite thing ever, free text import. Someone gives you a giant list of IPs, domains, and hashes all mishmashed together. You can just copy and paste it in there and it will go, ah, that's a hash. That's an IP. That's a domain. No manual work needed. And if you have had to copy and paste lots of indicators from one tool to the next, having to manually do that is a pain in the ass. So that's amazing. I love this. All right. Well, once you've got your stuff in here, the next most useful thing is this tag feature. So that's what I was talking about, of giving your analyst that context. So being able to go to either the event or the attribute level. I can totally go up here and tag the whole event itself as well. So if you have a particular event where a high-level tag makes sense, you can do so. Within here, you can, once you have your stuff in here, the next thing that it takes advantage of is what's called, let's see, I don't want the event graph, I want this one. Go away, you. I want you. This one, I guess I didn't have anything. None of those match? I guess they didn't. All right, I'm gonna have to jump to something else to show that off. We'll go away with that for right now. Now, a lot of people are starting to take advantage of Mitre's attack matrix. You can map any intrusion analysis you do to the Mitre matrix. And then it statistically compiles that for you so you can actually look like quarter by quarter, year by year, what tactics and techniques is your team actually seeing on a day-to-day basis. If you go into Mispriv, you can see what everyone in the world is seeing on a day-to-day basis. If you need to add something that's a little bit more than just specific indicators, like you need to do some kind of back and forth with your team, like an IR analyst, say, creates the initial event and populates some indicators, and then an Intel analyst needs to go back and review it and do the tagging and that sort of stuff. You can have an entire discussion with yourself down here, and it is then something where you can note all your things. Can't spell, but whatever. And we're running a little slow here over VPN, so sorry for that. It will timeline things for you. So here, our Volusion CDN occurred back in October. You can set start and stop times for indicators, so you can then actually show when particular threat actors were active from. Let's jump back to our main page here and look at one where we've got some, maybe not that many. Let's do this one. Wrong click. All right, so this is what I was trying to show off before. So anytime you drop a particular indicator, other direction. Zooming with trackpad is not easy. It will correlate. So if you have the same indicator show up in more than one event, it will automatically tell you, hey, this has been seen before. So here, this particular attribute, apparently Serbia, all of these different particular events all had that same attribute show up. So whoever was doing this particular event believes that Serbia was involved with this for some reason. I have not looked at this. I picked this totally at random, so I can't tell you what their idea is behind it, but hey, it's a thing. So it can be quite helpful to you as an Intel analyst to look for trends or where you may be able to find more information about certain attributes or indicators. Yeah, I guess that's kind of, again, there's so much in here, I can't even begin to describe it in the couple of minutes we've got left here. I've got a few other things I think I can share that will be more useful to you. I guess the last thing I'll say about this is I think I'm going to do a training class on MISP at Converge Detroit. So my CFP gets approved and you want to learn more about it in like 4 hours, go do that.
Approved.
All right, let's see here. Let's get to the end here. If you want to get started with some of that open source stuff, here's a bunch of the links. Feel free to take some screenshots or photos or whatever. All of these are awesome ways to get started. Again, I would always recommend getting a Twitter account ASAP because there's tons of great stuff that people just share right out there. URL house is another great one. Let's see, what else deserves some URL scan. If you haven't used URL scan before, a lot of people do use it for phishing, but it can be extremely effective in tracking adversaries too. Recently I've been looking at people using PowerShell Empire, because PowerShell Empire, if you don't change any settings, is a very distinct landing page, which one of the things that URL scan does is it takes a hash of that landing page. So you can search for every time that hash is shown up because someone, got hit by PowerShell Empire and then told URL scan to scan it. Currently there's 178 of those in their database, and you can just go look at all of them. So if you're curious on who's using PowerShell Empire, where that C2 is based out of, I'll give you a little spoiler. Most of it's based out of US servers. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. App.Anyron is amazing for their sandboxing, but they also have malware trends. So they actually do, pretty sure it's either daily or weekly of what samples they're seeing, and then it also gives more information about what each particular malware family and how they do what they do. FADO Tracker is another abuse.ch outlet that specifically looks for command and control, whereas URL House is mostly looking at malware delivery. FADO is looking at the command and control. So going back to knowing where your indicators should point you is pretty key. And quite honestly, on those particular ones, if you go to their websites, they actually provide a ton of that context, which I know they all let you download the Blacklist. That's fine. I really wish they would let you directly import this stuff, because they actually tell you, hey, this is a TrickBot command and control. It is currently offline. When was it first seen? Again, going back to getting that context is important. Like, you could get a hit from your, these are all in like the Proofpoint ET Pro rules or whatever in your IDS. You could totally get this alert from your IDS that 64.44.133.39, was blocked. That doesn't tell you anything about it. It doesn't tell you why it was blocked. It might say, it might say TrickBot, maybe. But they often use things like group 3. What is group 3? Is group 3 bad? I don't know. TrickBot's bad. I know TrickBot's bad. I also know TrickBot currently is offline. So if I just got that hit now, I'm gonna guess it's probably actually not TrickBot. I might need to do a little more research to verify that, but yeah. Whereas if I see 66.85.173.20, which is currently online, oh, I better go reimage that host or do more analysis, so on and so forth. Another fun one here. So this particular C2 tracker called VeriBack is taking advantage of all the data that goes to URL scan. And so this guy has essentially scraped the data from URL scan to find all the botnet panels that get submitted there. And they break it down by the IP address, when it was first seen, and what particular panel it is. Are we dealing with Agent Tesla, LokiBot, or Diamond Fox? All of those have their own specific TTPs. So yeah, again, tons of open source out there. Great place to get your feet wet. And that's it. I'll leave it there. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on my website. I try and share, post useful, interesting things like walkthroughs on how to do that PowerShell Empire stuff in URL scan, intrusion analysis type things like with an Emotet Cobalt Strike thing. So yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Any questions?
Any other questions for Brian? All right. Well, real quick, couple more things. At the top here, I forgot to thank Tech Systems. They're the ones that provided the pizza and drinks here tonight. Ben Saylor was here. Looks like he took off. He probably had something come up. If anyone is interested in reaching out to Tech Systems, I can help you make that connection if you'd like. Just let me know after we're done here. We do have the Lansing Social coming up. That's on the 26th. We're always the last Wednesday of the month. We're always now at Green Dot Stables, which is over by Frandor. All the other locations also have a monthly social the last week of the month. Check out mysec.us/events for more info, or sign up for the newsletter. I'm going to sign you up for the newsletter if you give me your email address. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much, Brian. I really appreciate you coming out. I know I have a few questions of my teammates tomorrow based on what you presented here today, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Are we doing Green Dot afterwards now?